Welcome back everyone to another market update report here on our channel Everything Jacksonville Estate. In this video, we're going to be highlighting the update for the Jacksonville Beaches and Jacksonville Southside area for July of 2024. We're going to dive deeper and look at the amount of homes hitting the market, the homes going under contract, what the supply and demand of the homes in the market look like currently, as well as what does that mean for pricing and future expectations for later this year. So stay tuned because when we come back, we're going to go over all that great information. All right, now we're back. So before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notified when we post more market updates like this in the future. You know, with the way that the market's changing constantly this year, and as we're going to see more changes this year, it's very important to know what's going on here in the Jacksonville market. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that you stay tuned with all these updates we do provide. So to start this off, the first thing we're going to look at is the pen to list ratio. So this ratio kind of measures how many homes are under contract in relation to how many homes were on the market in any given month. And what we saw is for July, we had a 17.7% pen to list ratio, which means that we were roughly we were under 1 of every 5 homes on the market going under contract. What that normally tells us is when the ratio is low like this, it means that the market is missing buyers and that there's less buyers in the market than we maybe have seen in the past, and therefore we're in a somewhat slow market for this area. Now, sometimes this can happen because of higher rates, sometimes it can happen because of higher prices, sometimes it can happen because of both. And right now, what I can tell you is we are seeing more homes on the market and less than going under contract. So a lot of that has to do with, I think, again, the mixture of the higher prices with the higher rates. Now, that being said, we are seeing rates starting to come down some. And as we go through the rest of this year, we're not surprising to see rates come down further. And so that'll be a big question mark is as rates come down, will that kind of kickstart the buyer demand back up? Or are we going to kind of see a continuing trend of what we've seen the last couple of months with lower demand on the market with a higher supply? Obviously, with lower demand, it does make it a little more attractive market for buyers to be able to negotiate. But at the same time, with the rates coming down, maybe that does change. Moving forward though from that, as we take a closer look, we do see that homes in that $800,000 to $1 million price range did make up the majority of homes under contract. That may seem, like if you're familiar with these videos, that may seem like a big jump up compared to what we normally see. Because again, we normally see homes in the more first-time home buyer range or more lower range of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 being most homes are going under contract. But what this tells us that the people looking at these higher price points who are probably less affected by these higher rates are the ones who are now taking full advantage of having more options at their disposal and be able to really negotiate the prices of these homes down further due to the slightly higher supply of homes in the market here in the Beaches and Southside. All that to be said though, homes in the $400,000 to $600,000 range do make up the majority of homes that are on the market, which is a continuing theme from previous videos, and just again highlights the fact that homes in the Beaches and Southside, this is going to be kind of an ideal price point for homes over there is at $400,000 to $600,000. As far as the median list price though, we're still pretty elevated at $729,000. Overall, just because that's where the median list price is, does not mean that's where the median sell price is. So there will be a big difference there as we'll highlight further in this video. The next thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at this graph. And in this graph, you're going to see and again, if you've seen previous videos, you're going to see what we've seen in previous market updates, which is the fact that there's a lot more homes for sale in that $200,000 to $400,000 to $600,000, $800,000 price range compared to the homes going under contract. So ultimately, you have to ask yourself, if I'm looking to buy a home in that price range here in the Beach and Southside, am I going to have options? And look at this graph, yes you are. Now if you're looking to sell a home in that price range in these areas, simultaneously, you're going to have more competition. So it's very important when pricing your home to take that into account. So that way when you do hit the market initially, you maximize your audience at that time to get the best possible situation for you and your family for ideally the sale of your home. Now we look at the last 6 months of data, we do see there was 962 contracts that closed with a median sold price of $577. So again, this is to kind of highlight, even though homes are being listed over 700,000 as far as that median list price, the median sale price is still more in that $577 range, which again really kind of highlights the fact that most homes selling in these areas are still going to be in that $400,000 to $600,000 price point, despite July's numbers supporting more than $800,000 to $1 million price point. We did also see there was 137 homes that failed to sell, which is a little bit elevated from previous month, but overall not to the point where I'm ringing the bell of concern. As I always mention, homes can fail to sell for multiple reasons. They can fail to sell due to a job relocation no longer occurring. They can fail to sell due to the sellers no longer wanting to sell their house. Maybe they didn't have to sell, they were just trying to sell it. It could have failed to sell because it wasn't listed properly by the listing agent. Maybe the pictures were taken on an iPhone, or maybe the description didn't really give it a lot for a buyer to be intrigued with the home. So it can be for a lot of different reasons. It can just be because the price was too high for a buyer to even make an offer on it. So overall, that is one of those things we like to monitor, because the higher that number goes, as far as homes failing to sell, the more that could be an indication the market is really starting to struggle with getting homes under contract, where I don't think that's the case currently. What I think we're seeing currently is we're seeing a lot of sellers not willing to come off of their list price enough to get an offer, but eventually they probably will, and eventually they will get an offer to get their home sold. So you're not seeing too many of them really exit the market, they're just kind of holding tight, holding pat in the market. So there's a difference there. The next thing we're going to look at is the days on market for these homes, and we're going to start off with days on market for homes that are active on the market. And what we can see here is homes that are active on the market have a typical median time on market of 52 days. Now this is a little bit higher than previous month, and a lot of that is indicative. It's very indicative of the fact that there are just less buyers out there due to rates and due to prices. And so homes are having to sit longer before finding a buyer who's going to put an offer on their home. And even though we're in that summertime window still, where normally you wouldn't expect to see a higher days on market, that just does go to show that seasonality trends are not holding up due to these higher rates and higher prices for this area. Now we look at solds. The solds were around 15 days on the market. So clearly, if your house is priced very aggressively, so to speak, you probably will be under contract fairly quickly and get your home sold fairly quickly. So it's something else to take into account. You have to ask yourself, if you're looking to sell your house currently, obviously we always want to maximize what we can make, but at the same time, if you run into a situation where if you price your home 10, 20, 30,000 higher than what perhaps the market is supporting, are you okay with waiting a couple months to get the home under contract and sold, and maybe even having to come down to that initial price anyways, or maybe even below that initial price that it could have probably been priced at? So ultimately, that's a big question to ask, because what a lot of sellers are starting to realize is if they're too aggressive up front, they may end up being lower than they initially would have been if they had priced their homes more appropriately at the beginning. So something to definitely take into account and consider, as we are in a different market now where buyers have a little bit more dictation on pricing and terms. Now, when we look at homes that sold in the past month, we actually did see that the days on market was 20 days on market, so higher than when we look at a 6-month window. But also, despite that, we saw that the prices went up to $620,000. So we saw a huge spike, from a month-to-month standpoint, of almost $50,000 between June and July, or between July and last 6 months. And what that tells us is July was a very good month for some higher price homes going under contract and selling. And ultimately, what that will mean for future months is that should bump up our 6-month window number as we move forward. Now, the biggest question with this that I have is, with the prices increasing, in a month-to-month window, does that continue despite rates being where they're at? It could, because rates are starting to come down. But ultimately, if that does continue, what does that look like for the end of the year with the market conditions? Because ultimately, if the prices do keep going up, are we going to see less movement on the market with buyers and sellers? or we actually see more movement despite price going up because interest rates are now coming down. So a lot to unpack there, a lot to kind of see how it progresses. What I can tell you for right now is it is showing that despite less transactions being done, less homes being bought and sold, the ones that are being bought and sold are still moving at a pretty good pace and still getting very good pricing on them. A lot of times maybe because their condition or location allow that price to be something that buyers are willing to pay despite the higher rates. Now, as far as median list to sales ratio for this area, you will see here that the median list to sales ratio is 97.9%. That is not too far off from where we were at previously. And again, it's just telling us that buyers and sellers, when they do come under contract and in agreement with each other, they're coming fairly close to that that current list price. So to give an example, if you have your home listed for $600,000 and you drop it down to $570,000, you get an offer for $560,000. Ultimately that's going to give you a really good list to sales ratio because of the fact that these ratios are based off of the current list price, not the original list price. So there's more there than what you really think when you see that percentage, and there's a lot more to really take into account with that because that only tells you part of the story. 97.9% really could be 92%, 90%, 85% for some homes, but that's not what we always see. So just something to keep in mind if you're a buyer or a seller watching this video, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that doesn't always show up when we're going through this data that I want to definitely highlight today. Now, when we look at the last 6 months of data as well, we do see the absorption rate for the area was 3 months. Now, the absorption rate is going to measure how many homes being on the market, how long would we be okay with the market with that amount of homes if we didn't have any new homes hit the market. So in essence, how long would it take us for us to run out of homes? In this case, it'd be 3 months of inventory and we'd be out. And what that does kind of speak to is that even though we are seeing more homes hit the market, recently, in the last 6 months, we're still in a very solid seller's market, just not that hyper seller's market due to the higher prices and higher rates that we are seeing currently. So at 3 months, there's no cause for concern if you're a seller. It's just, again, it really comes down to having your home dialed in on the price and condition standpoint, because as we all know, Beaches and Southside are going to give you your location for the most part. And then lastly, as we always do, I like to highlight at different price points what the absorption rate actually is. Rather than looking at a full view, I like to kind of break it down depending on your price point. And what you can see here is if you're buying a home in the Beaches and Southside, you're looking anywhere from $200,000 to $600,000, you're going to still be in a pretty good seller's market. Doesn't mean you can't negotiate. Doesn't mean you can't get some concessions from the seller. But it does mean that if it's a very, very good quality home, that you may have more competition than you would expect to have in today's current market. On the flip side, if you are looking for a home in the $600,000 to $800,000 range, or $800,000 to $1 million, or even further on and up, as you can see here, you're going to have more options. You're going to have less competition, so you're going to have a little more ability to dictate your pricing across the board. To give you an example, when we look at homes, and I understand that this is a much higher price point, when we look at homes that are in the $1.8 to $2 million range, you can actually see here that the listed sales ratio is 92%. So that's a pretty massive price differential from where homes are listed at compared to what they're selling at. And what that again just tells us, it tells us that sellers are willing to negotiate even at the higher price points. So overall, if you're watching this video and you're a buyer and you're really wanting to know how to navigate the market to buy a house in the Beaches and Southside, a lot of this will kind of help give you a good baseline. But if you have any further questions, in the link or in the description of this video is a link to my calendar. Feel free, you can set up a time for us to meet face-to-face or through Zoom, or even just schedule a phone call to go over any deeper questions as far as the market here and as far as what it looks like to buy a home in today's market. And if you're a seller watching this video and this video maybe could concern you because again, there's a lot of, especially in the media, there's a lot of doom and gloom going on right now, but even with this video I'm doing today, as you can see with the data, it is a little bit more of a softening market for sellers. So if there are any concerns there, again, in the description of this video is a link to my calendar where we can set the time to meet face-to-face or through Zoom to help go over any of those concerns, because at the end of the day, it's still a very good, solid market. It's just a different market than what we've had for the previous, 3, 4, 5 years. And also in that description is also my phone number. So if you don't want to go through the whole calendar process, I understand. You can always just give me a call as well. If I'm available, I will always answer or reach back out. And then also, if you had any questions about this video that you just want to kind of drop in the comment section, feel free, drop them in the comment section. I will make sure I get those answered for you, so that way you're not leaving me hanging. And as always, I'll be doing more of these videos in the future. So if you do like this content, again, like this video. That greatly helps us build our channel, and subscribe to our channel as well. And I will see you guys in the next Beaches and Southside market update video.